Hi there, Searcher Anglers. This is Steve Carson here on the Searcher. It's a beautiful day. We're getting ready for another fantastic tuna season. There's been a lot of effort and time and seminars and videos put in for catching 200, 250, 300 pound tuna at night on jigs. And I'm just going to show you what those jigs look like, and we'll cover them in another video again. But that's like a 400 gram jig with a 250 pound leader and a couple of big giant hooks. And needless to say, the fish are only going to bite that at night, because if they could get a good look at it, they'd come up to the surface and laugh at you. Those are good at night, but we're not going to talk about them. We're going to talk about jig fishing in the daytime. And the tuna are going to be a little bit smaller. Sometimes you're going to be out there and it's only going to be school-sized fish that might be 15, 20, 25, they might even be 50 pounds. Nothing wrong with that. They're beautiful fish. Not to mention, they're not always bluefin tuna. They might be yellowfin tuna. There might be yellowtail, other species, knock on wood, maybe even an opah. For those of you that want to Google opah, O-P-A-H, look that one up and I guarantee you'll want to catch one. Not to mention, have one on the table. But in the daytime, obviously you have to be a little bit more stealthy. You have to show the fish something a little bit more realistic. But yet, since right in the middle of a school of 20 pounders, you could easily hook a 60, 70, 80 pounder or even bigger, even on a small lure, because remember, elephants eat peanuts. But the most popular type lure is what they call a dart jig. And there's a lot of different brands of them. They come in sizes from a little bitty 50 grammer. And if you can see that in my hand, that's a pretty small jig. But you know what? I've caught tuna over 50 pounds on that little jig. A very popular size when the fish are feeding on small bait is the 80 gram. That's probably my second favorite size. And then just in general, when I'm kind of prospecting, trying to catch something, I'm going to use a 100 gram jig. That again, that's the Williamson Gomame. And I like that one because, okay, you can see how nice it looks on the side. Well, let me show you the side with look at all those bite marks, okay? But that profile is why it works well. That little S curve is just absolutely killer. You got to make sure that this is a fairly light jig. It's got to be able to sink down. Captain Art or Captain Mike will tell you, I'm seeing tuna, even in the daytime, he'll tell you they're at 100, 150, maybe 200 feet. You got to be able to get down to them. So I'm using either 40 or 50 pound test top shot on my Penn Fathom 2 30 reel. I've got that reel filled 3/4 full with 65 pound braid, and I've got a 50-yard top shot of either 40 or 50 pound test, and always a 2-speed. I've got a rod rated, I like longer rods. I like 8-foot rods. Your mileage may vary. If you like a 7-foot rod or even a 7'6", that's great. But this is rated for 30 to 60 pound test, Carnage 3 West Coast rod. But any rod you get, make sure you're fishing the middle of the line rating. Don't fish the high end, don't fish the low end. You won't get the performance that you pay for with a quality rod. Couple of other things that will sometimes happen. Maybe the tuna are even bigger than 50 pounds. They might be 60, 70, 80, 90 pounds. They start to get some teeth at that size. So what I'll do is I'll take that Williamson Gomame, that's a 100 grammer, and I'll splice on just a 4-foot piece of 80 pound test fluorocarbon. 4 feet's plenty. And again, not for 200 pounders, but if I hook an 80, 90 pounder and he swallows it all the way down, which they love these lures, they'll swallow them, that will help keep me from getting chewed off. Also, sometimes the fish are a little bit bigger even in the daytime, or they're a little bit deeper. And then I'll go up to something like 120 gram or even 170 gram. That happens to be the Williamson Kensaki jig. And you can tell, again, some of these are new, some of these have been bitten a lot. That one actually, that particular jig, if you recall last year, I was on the cover of Western Outdoor News with a nice big tuna, and that exact lure was sticking out of his mouth. So I managed to get lucky and hang on to it and not lose it, like a lot of times will happen. And what I've got here, when those fish are a little deeper or you're catching 100 pounders during the daytime, it does happen. I got my Penn Fathom 40 narrow reel with a 6.5 or 7 foot rod, rated, in this case is rated for 30 to 80 pound test. And I've got the reel 3/4 of the way full with 80 pound braid, and that top shot is 50 yards of 60 pound mono. Sometimes Art or Mike will look down at me and go, "Are you using that 60 pound again?" And I'll go, "Oops, sorry," and I'll change it to 80. But that's only when the fish are over 100 pounds. And in which case, like I say, they will watch what you're doing and they will let you know, and they will help you do it. If you don't have the right gear, they will make sure you've got the right gear. One other thing about all these jigs, whatever brand they may be, I love all the lure companies. They're really nice people, but most of the fish caught worldwide are not the size you're going to catch on the Searcher. They're just not. We're catching a lot bigger fish than these lures are made up for. And I should have brought one to show you, but the hook hardware, the rings and the hooks that come with these lures are made for fish that are like from 5 to maybe 20 pounds, which is fine if that's what you're fishing for. But you know what, on the Searcher, I have confidence in you. You're going to catch the biggest fish of your life. So I like to upgrade my hooks to at least a 5X strong treble hook. And also in this style of lure, whatever one you pick, and I'm going to show you that nighttime lure again. For my nighttime lures, I do like to have maybe a couple of big single hooks. On the dart type jigs, whatever size, whatever color, I like a heavy treble hook. And I've experimented with every style of hook you can imagine. And you will have a few fish pull off on the treble hook. That is actually true. But this particular style lure gets a lot more bites with a treble hook on it. Can't exactly say why, but I can definitively say that's what happens. So when you're out on the Searcher, and if you've lived through the nighttime catching those 200 pounders and you want to fish during the daytime, fish with your lighter gear, have a load of fun. Any size bluefin tuna is a great fish. See you on the Searcher.